But in a disaster like that, absolutely. Who has authority, by the way? We would think it's going to be what? First, the state health department, the state EPA, the state governor. And then from there, we're going to need federal assistance and get to the federal EPA. But nobody's available. Why is that? Because you're letting the polluter, the one that committed the act, do what they want. How on earth did somebody miss that train derailment and not get down there? Why, Norfolk's hemming and hawing for a couple of days. What do we do? Please, somebody knew something. You're hiding something. You're hiding something.
It's a great segue. I want to move on to East Palestine. I don't know if you saw this. The national media didn't cover it, but we covered it. The EPA official, Mark Durno, for those of you watching in Flint, you know Mark Durno, might have some thoughts. But he said some things that made me think that what they've told us about this whole control burn, which has never happened in American history that I know of, to control burn a train, isn't exactly completely true. Colin, let's play. This is at a community meeting in East Palestine, I think 3 weeks ago. Credit to the EPA for showing up. Norfolk Southern backed out once again, said they would come and then backed out. But he's asked about, why did you allow them to blow up 5 cars, allegedly, from what they say, of vinyl chloride? Let's show this.
Why did the EPA allow the burning of 4 additional cars when there was only an issue with 1?
Yeah, so we did not authorize that. We are not, when we're in that phase of the emergency, we don't make that decision. We provide input to those decisions. And what we provided was an adequate, we helped develop the modeling for what the air was going to do when the plan was just to burn 1 car, right? Because that was the original plan. That night, Sunday night, the plan was vent and burn 1 car. On Monday, we learned that they made the decision to vent and burn 5 cars. We weren't part of that decision.
But you guys knew before?
Before the vent and burn happened, we knew it was happening, so we enhanced our air monitoring equipment to be able to handle something larger.
Was there nobody who could say, nope, you're not going to burn 4 additional cars?
So,
when that wasn't in the plan?
It was our understanding that there was a significant risk of explosion, and that was the rationale behind it. I've been on vent and burns in the past, not 5 cars, but I have seen it done. I saw it done on a propane tank car before. It was pretty massive, and if that thing would have blown up, it would have taken lives.
Okay, but aren't the tankers for this designed to actually just split open rather than shrapnel?
So that's above my pay grade. I don't know the answer.
That's
so I was in the room, so I'll tell you what, from my perspective, what happened. The relief valves were gummed up. It was doing a process called polymerization, and I know that's probably not how you pronounce that word. It was going from a liquid to a solid. It was like a slime. They put an additive in there to keep it stable as they transfer it across.
Right.
When it wrecked, those cars were in the center of the heat, so that's where they got all the heat. So therefore, it burnt the additive out, is what we were told. And this is what we were told. We're not experts. We're not chemists. I'm the mayor. He's the fire chief. And there was a bunch of other people in the room. The people who actually owned the stuff were in the room. As there's rumors that they weren't, they were. They were consulted. They were in there.
They were there?
They were there.
That's something that they didn't.
We didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't know why they don't put it out, but it's town hall. We might as well get the truth out.
Yeah, their name was?
No, I don't know their name. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Number one,
I don't
we
even
showed
know
up
what
on
it's
Monday.
called.
We showed up on Monday. They made the decision. Well, who's they? Norfolk Southern. We find out the owner of the chemicals was in the room. Obviously, you might want to know what's going to happen with these chemicals when we blow them up. But this talk from the EPA, we provided input. We learned the plan was, what are you, the fucking EPA or the janitorial system? No offense to janitors. What is all this deference to these corporations when you're talking about, a chemical mushroom cloud? Why? I know this has frustrated you for 30 years, but why is the EPA allowing this to go forward? You can't have modeling for blowing up 5 cars of vinyl chloride, which, to be honest, I'm finding it hard to believe it was 5 cars of vinyl chloride. That's a whole nother story. Why would you blow up an additional 4 cars? Why was the plan until Monday morning 1 car only needed to be blown up? Now all of a sudden 4 cars? Something doesn't make sense here. And I think he had a Freudian slip that it wasn't a fire chief who made this decision. The company made the decision. The question is, why did they really make that decision?
There's a whole lot to unwrap there too, because I don't think the EPA is independent. I think the EPA is often in bed with these chemical lobbyists and these chemical companies. And that's who they answer to. They had a moment. Listen, I watched this thing unfold, and you could almost feel for those 3 days. So nobody's really talking about it before that huge explosion. What are they doing down there? They were thinking of an idea because they did something wrong. Was there a manifest? Were you transporting hazardous chemicals that weren't on a manifest, that are more dangerous than you're going to let anybody know? What would be a better way to get rid of it than blow it up? And so the EPA walks into the fox in a hen house, and the chickens are all gone, and they look at the fox. What happened to the chicken? And the fox is like, I don't know. I mean, come on. And I just think it's an unfortunate situation again. There's a system failure. And we're just not going to read the handwriting on the wall. And this is where we, as people that are in these things, we have to become our own critical thinker. And I've told this community this, and over again. And Jordan, you know this in Flint and everywhere else that we've gone. And usually it's moms that are pretty keen about this. I'm not buying this bullshit. I feel it right here. I'm not coming back. I'm going to have to figure something else out. But everybody else, is going to go do what they want. And our agencies just aren't there for us. They're there. I've seen it over and over again for 30 years. This agency runs ass backwards. We could back this all the way up. We could get into a whole Teflon, perfluorooctanoic, PFAS issue that's affecting this whole country. Well, go back decades ago where 3M notified EPA, we're going to be a problem. They got to stop this revolving door up there. Oh, you got a chemical coming in? Yeah, let it into the system. We'll throw it into the water, only to find out 30 years later, oh, oops, we have a problem. We're doing it ass backwards, and we continue to do it. And until we start putting some oversight on top of good regulations that we have, or safe drinking water acts, and follow them in safety first, this is just going to continue to go on, because I don't know that the EPA is going to stop its revolving door of letting these chemicals come into the marketplace and into the environment anytime soon. We have to be the ones that are going to have to get smart. And we're more capable of doing that.
And by the way, in another clip, he said part of our decision-making for the excavation of the soil was to avoid lawsuits from Norfolk Southern.
Of course, but yet they're suing Norfolk Southern. Oh, right. You can sue, you don't want to be sued. And it's such a clusterfuck. I can't believe I even just said that. I don't know what else to say anymore. You said you weren't going to upset me today. This is just boggles my mind. It's so frustrating. It's so ridiculous. Oh my gosh, it's a comedy of errors, and it's not funny. But if you go back to this whole situation, oh, come on. They were hiding something. We just haven't found out yet what it was, but they were. And how unprepared for any kind of disaster the state was, or this governor was, when it happened is obvious. Well, we got an evacuation zone. Oh, it's a mile. But you have these people 4 and 5 miles. Again, you saw the smoke, you smelled the smoke. It's making you sick, but no, it's not. So, okay, get out of here, because we're going to blow it up. And then we decide it's safe, because we're not going to really look for what we should be looking for, and they know what to look for. And then they bring you back. And then people are saying they're still sick. No, you're not sick. And then they're going to say the water's safe. Oh, no, they're going to tell you to drink bottled water. No, the water's not safe. Then I go out there. Obviously, the water's not safe, at least the tributary water. I'm not talking necessarily about the drinking water or aquifers. We don't know the answer to that yet. But you're aerating it. Why? Oh, it's polluted. Oh, that's why you're aerating. So now you're just throwing it back into the air. Oh, and then the EPA comes back out there, Mr. Reagan, and says the kids should stay away from the creek because we're throwing it out. Which is it? They're creating their own confusion. And I think that's part of their shell game. We're going to do all this over here so you don't see what we're doing over here. And it is cruel to do this to all of us as citizens and people in the disaster zones, and taking advantage of that to cover up your own shit. I'm beyond frustrated. I don't even care anymore how crazy somebody may think I am, or my emotions and passion about this. I've been doing it for 30 years. This has got to stop.
And, we have to also remember, we've spoken about it, the media abandonment is a big story here. They're focused on, as the Trump turns and Trump perp watch and all those things. I think they could walk and chew gum at the same time. I mean, Status Coup, I don't have the resources of CNN or any of these outlets, but we're just keeping in touch with residents in East Palestine, in Flint, now in Indiana. I mean, look at this. This is from 2 weeks ago. If you have the images of the rashes, Colin, residents are showing me images of their rashes. They're on city water, which was declared safe. That's somebody's fingers, hands. If you have the woman's back, that's her back, side of her boob. I got her permission to show. They're on city water. Another woman had rashes all over her face on city water, all over her legs. Other people have rashes, on their chest. This is coming from something, and I don't think it's the weather, yet we're just told, well, the testing's showing the water is fine. Well, what are they getting rashes from? It's really, really alarming.
Well, it's just, we're watching, and I've said before in interviews, this debacle unfold in real time. Many situations, Flint was one of those things that was happening real time. These fires are, the train derailment is. But historically, going back, in my earlier days, we were coming into these communities that were sick and started to peel from there to realize, they've been covering up this contamination for 20 years, for 25 years, and latency periods have run. So it's a unique opportunity to watch it happening real time, and how that they can almost devise a plan to know what not to look for, what right equipment do I not bring. And by the way, if this is how they do, why do we even have an EPA? Honestly, because you were put in play to be the scientist and the toxicologist, to understand these chemicals in the environment, in explosions, in fires, in water, in the soil, what it does to people. I don't think they do know what to do. So why do we have them? And that's a really scary thing to say.